Sure. So first of all, JT, what rock are you living under that you didn't hear about this? This is probably one of the Jesus, dropped my phone. One of the biggest album releases of the year in the mainstream, absolutely for sure. Something that I was very much looking forward to. And Eminem's had kind of an interesting career where he was huge for being this controversial rapper that said things that in today's society would probably get him canceled, which is a main focus of this record, which we'll get into. But then in most recent years, kind of in a way toned that down into having a few albums worth of just him rapping about how great of a rapper he is. Uh, I've enjoyed all this stuff. So going into this, I was really looking forward to kind of the return to that Slim Shady persona. So JT, if with that track, let's get right into it. I mean, first of all, having a concept album from Eminem is just it's great. I love the concept. These songs throughout flow for the most part very well and tell a very compelling and interesting story that I really enjoyed throughout. I mean, starting with Renaissance, this intro is fantastic. It really sets the tone for what to expect for the rest of the album here. I mean, Slim Shady's back for sure on this one. Perfect opener to set that up. And so a lot of the ratings I'm giving specific songs on here, they're kind of also influenced in a way by how they fit on the context of this album, which I feel like you kind of have to do with a concept record like this. I mean, this is a 10 out of 10. I mean, this as an intro sets the tone perfectly. Then you get into habits. This one, I don't like it as much. It's a 9 out of 10 for me. I don't love the chorus on this. I don't like the feature. I don't hate it. It's just kind of there. I think it slows down the momentum of the song at parts. It doesn't really add much. I really love that South Park sample in there from the Safe Space episode with the reality sample. I think that's hysterical. Worked so well. I love on this track the way he changes his cadence throughout the song, so it doesn't get stale ever. It's an almost just about 5 minute long song, but it doesn't really feel like it. He goes into each different verse with different cadences, changes it up, really shows the technical proficiency on that. And I love this one. Could have done without that chorus, or maybe just change it up slightly to make it better. Then you go into Trouble, which is like a 40-second little, not a skit, not an interlude, but just a little 40-second, almost like comedy track. It's hysterical, and it really pushes the story of the album forward. I'd give the song a higher rating. This is an 8 out of 10 for me. I'd give it a significantly higher rating if it was longer. I wish it was longer. I love where this was going. But it kind of works as an intro to Brand New Dance, which is one of my top songs from this record. This is a 10 out of 10. This is a fantastic throwback to that old early 2000s Eminem sound. The lyrics are hysterical. I mean, you can tell that most of the song is written back then with all the references to Christopher Reeves, who I guarantee you anyone from Gen Z listening to this is probably like, I don't understand this, but that's all right. I understand it, and that's what makes that's what makes it important. If you like old Eminem, you're gonna love this song. It's super fun. I mean, it's just a straight throwback to his earlier work. And then we get into this group of songs that I kind of lumped together almost, starting with Evil. I will say Evil's definitely the best of them. So I'm talking about the next like four tracks here. Evil's definitely the best of them. This one, another 10 out of 10 for me. This album starts incredibly strong. Another one with the classic Eminem vibe. Uh, the lyric on here that I just really have to point out as being one of my favorite lyrics in the album because of how ridiculous and funny it is uh, not the good kind of gay either when JT, sorry, it's Eminem. We're not going to be family friendly here.
Go
Uh,
ahead.
not the good kind of gay either when two dudes fuck each other and hate Beaver. That is one of the dumbest but funniest lines on this record. It's pure classic Eminem, pure Slim Shady. I love it. Uh, And just lyrically, this song I really enjoy. It has one of the few good choruses on the album. And then you got All You Got, it's a skit. I will say that the skits throughout this, I'm usually not one to be a fan of like the skits and interludes throughout, especially on rap albums. I feel like usually they don't work. But with this album, I feel like they actually do. They contribute to the story. It's a skit, not rating it. And Lucifer, probably the first song of the album that I'm not like huge into. I do like this song. Sits at about a seven after, repeated listens. I really don't like the chorus on this one. The verses are good, they're lyrically solid, as is just about every song on here. Just not too into it. It's a little bit repetitive. There's not many cadence changes throughout this, which so far before this we've experienced quite a bit of, but it's not a bad song. Then Antichrist picks it up quite a bit. Back to like a nine here. It's not perfect. I really love the Gen Z call out from him here. And I just find it really funny how back in the day, it was the older people trying to, for lack of a better word, cancel Eminem, and they're all angry with him, and the young people loved him. And now we've come full circle where the old people are defending Eminem and love the album, and the young people are being offended by it. It's really funny how that all comes full circle. I do think that again, the chorus on this one is the weak spot. It slows the song down when it comes in, kills the momentum a bit. I could really do without the bizarre feature at the end. I didn't think that really added much. I thought it kind of comes out of left field, but has these cool cadence changes that I like. And from here, the album kind of goes into like a mixed bag for me. We go to Fuel, which is again good song. I like it. It's a seven. It's not a great song. It's one of the few features, though, for me on here that actually works pretty well. Uh, Again, though, the chorus, total momentum killer. Uh, Eminem's verse on here, though, is killer. Another one of my favorite lines on here, the he didn't just spell rapper without the P, did he? That's incredibly clever. Love it. He always is great with wordplay. But then we get to one of my least favorites on Road Rage. I know what he was going for on this. I think we can all say that we know what the point here was. But wow, that is a horrendous course. That is one of the worst things. It's dreadful. I hate it. His verses are totally fine. The lyrics on it are okay. The feature and the chorus just weighs it down too much to the point where if it's not in the context of this album, I'm probably not listening to this one. Sits at about a five, just because in the context of the album it works. And I like everything about it except that chorus and the feature. Which brings us to the first single from this record that introduced us to what to expect here on Houdini. And this is probably still, even after hearing the rest of the album, my favorite track from here. I loved this on first listen when it came out. The sample is done incredibly well on here. It's catchy. It's the perfect balance of the Slim Shady and Eminem, going back and forth type thing. It's really well done, lyrically good, perfect introduction to the album. Glad it was the first single. Definitely worth it. 10 out of 10. Super catchy, great track. Breaking news, another skit, about Eminem wanting to cancel himself on his new album. Yeah, little tongue in cheek there. Then Guilty Conscience 2, which is a song that I had high hopes for going into, seeing as Guilty Conscience is one of his most iconic and best tracks from the original Slim Shady album. And this really didn't disappoint, to be honest with you. This was a 10 out of 10 here. I was worried going into this one that I wouldn't live up to it, but I really think this is a great successor to the original song. The conversation between Marshall and Slim on here, going back and forth with each other, that internal monologue, just really, it translates very well put into a song. And I just think that this song kind of perfectly encapsulates the story of the album and what he's trying to accomplish here. But then that brings us to when I think the album starts to not miss, but get a little less consistent. Where I feel like here is, I think Guilty Conscience 2 would have been a fine and perfect ending to this record. And I say that not because the next songs are bad, but because I don't think they add anything to the story. Except maybe I would keep the closing track as the closing track. But you go to Head Honcho, which is it's a good song. I enjoy it. It sits at about a 7 for me. But I'm really not as into Eminem songs that are just about how he's the GOAT and how great of a rapper he is. We've had probably 2, 3 albums worth of this material from him before. I just feel like it's been done so many times from him. It didn't really sound much different from some other stuff he's done. But that closing line of "You'll be a stan till I die," though, great line. Love that. I love the corny stuff like that. Temporary. On the flip side here, I love emotional Eminem songs. I think it's something that he does incredibly well for the most part. But this song really it sits at an 8 for me, and the reason on that being it's just not his best emotional song. It's good, but it's filled this same void is filled but better by other tracks of his on other albums like A Rose and Castle, like those two tracks combined back to back on Revival. It's kind of the same thing, done a little bit better. He's done similar tracks, so I mean for that reason it's an 8. It's an overused chorus slightly, still a really good song. And then my least favorite song on the entire record with Bad One. Uh, if you like the more modern hip hop or more like modern rap styles, you'll probably enjoy this one significantly more than I did. As me, who's someone that's really not into like the modern beats and like the modern rap cadences, this really didn't work for me. I don't like the chorus at all. I think it's pretty grating, to be honest. The lyrics are fine. It just really doesn't seem like it fits on this album, and yet it's another song about how great he is. And oh, there she's gonna say I have a bad song. I was like, oh, or a bad album. Like, oh my God, we know, we get it. And then Toby, I get what this is doing in bringing like the three Detroit rappers together on a track. It's cool. Again, this is kind of a more modern styling. This one is significantly better than Bad One. It does it way better. It's a 7. It's not really my style of rap. With that said, I would go back and listen to it. I think it's done pretty well. It has a much better chorus than the last one. Guess Who's Back? That's a cool skit. So what I would have done personally was I would have cut out Head Honcho, Temporary, and Bad One, and just ended this on and Toby, and ended this on the Guess Who's Back skit right into Somebody Save Me, which is a very good album closer. But my points on this one are almost exact to what I said about Temporary, in that it's a good closing track. It is emotional. He does emotional songs very well. The content is very similar to Temporary, which in turn makes it very similar to songs he's done in the past. Uh, with that said, it's still a very well done song. You can really feel the passion and emotion behind this track as well as Temporary. I really enjoyed this album. Going into it, I was pretty hopeful for it, but you never know what to expect when someone tries to, not redo, but kind of like reference previous work. It can usually go one of two ways, and I think this one went in his favor. Is it as good as I was hoping? I think it could have been better. I do really like it. I think that it had moments that could have been cut out or some features that should have been left off. But I feel that way about most rap albums. As a whole, as a piece of art, I think it told a very compelling story. I really enjoyed it throughout. Just him killing off the Slim Shady persona. Uh, I think it just really brought his career full circle. If this is, you never know with Eminem. If this is the last thing he does, I'd be satisfied. If this was like his swan song album and that's it, totally good with it. Uh, you know, the amount of callbacks on here was great. This really brought back that element of controversy that's been missing from his last couple of albums. And I think this album was a perfect combination of old sounds and new sounds, which when you look at the order, like the ordering of the track list here, it really does start with more classic Eminem sounds, and then as it goes on, continues to branch out into more of his modern sound. And I think it's cool. It's well done. It's a solid 8 out of 10 in my book.